Machine here, and you're watching Thorin's YouTube channel. 20-minute video for 2 minutes worth of content. Gold.
Gamer Subs, I'm drinking one here, as I've told you. At the moment, I'm drinking one you can't drink anymore called Grenadier Grape. They don't do it anymore. I would recommend lemonade, cherry limesicle. I find these flavours to be delicious. Blue Raz, just blue raspberry flavour. Get 10% off with the code Thorin, THORIN, at gamersubs.gg. There was a post, let's look at it here. And it says, it's from a guy called Boom CS, who just does some stat stuff. ZywOo has been a group stage merchant in 2024. This was on July 14th, so a month ago. And he's actually in Maui Snake's Pit, which is like a community on Twitter. I've never done one of those because I have my own Discord. I don't know if they're actually worth doing. The problem is I don't really want to see what other people have to comment on. I'm not a particularly social person in that sense. What he does, he just shows the stats. So he shows that ZywOo in 2024, number of maps, percentage of maps, and rating 2.0. So his overall rating is insane at the time, 1.40. By the way, that would be like numbers of the best player ever. Incredible. Playoff rating, 1.34. Hey, you know what? Incredibly good. One of the best, probably one of the 5 best players to ever play Counter-Strike. Grand final rating over a sample size of 6, not huge. 1.07 at this point in up to July. 1.07. Group stage rating, 1.44. So that means that the overall rating is just being hella carried by the group stage. Then rating versus top 5 goes down to 1.2. By the way, 1.27, still very good. Still a very good number. And 22 is a large sample size. And then he shows, for example, because everyone hates on Spinks, that if you look at Spinks's, Bobinski on the defense force. Does that actually mean this guy's Bobinski, the boom guy? Be interesting if he is, because the guy's always in my fucking chat. Just shows that, because everyone goes, oh, they're all shit and ZywOo's carrying them. So you go down here, like, yeah, overall, he's a rifler. That's a very good number for a rifler. That's a pretty good number for a rifler. Similar grand final rating, even though everyone goes, it's all Spinks' fault. Maniac, oh, Spinks just disappeared and let ZywOo down. Group stage rating, yeah, just good numbers there. Rating versus top 5, yeah, way worse. Yeah, you got a point there on that one. So the reason why this is interesting is because this comment gets 80 points. By the way, Reddit is full of cretins who don't understand anything. So when they upvote you, you actually had a shit comment. He goes, surprising. Player plays better against worse players. Bro, it's actually not something that would be... You're suggesting it isn't surprising. You think it isn't surprising that a 1.4 rating player plays 1.07 in grand finals because there's better players there. Except here's the problem. You know what he would have done if he actually knew what he was talking about? He would have just pulled up a bunch of stats and showed you how much worse Monacy players in finals, how much worse Donk players in finals. He didn't do that because here's the thing. It wouldn't show that, would it? You know it wouldn't. And I always say, if there's evidence on the internet, you use that to destroy someone. You don't just go, well, I don't know, blah, 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 blah. So already shit comment in it. So then we have this one, top-rated players from EWC, that dog shit tournament that's just very mid, but it has loads of prize money. Okay, Yimfat, or Yimpat, I'm always unsure how you're supposed to say it. Granton Spanked, give out 5 subs, thanks for that. Nico, super high. ZywOo's pretty high. I mean, he's very good. Bit, very good. Obviously, some of these are crazy. So that's just top-rated players. But please, someone say 18 points. Let's go back to that again. Just because when they didn't do well at this tournament, there's no other Vitality player in here. Are you ready? Think about what you just saw about ZywOo. ZywOo made it to semis of the majors, not even doing that well. ZywOo literally could have just won IEM Cologne without even performing that well in the first 2 maps of the final. This guy goes, but please, someone save him from Vitality. Bro's been doing everything and doesn't get any help. And then this guy goes, I implies he's only staying because of a contract. He has a contract renewed for 2 years. Most chances are everyone will leave, be replaced as time goes, but he will stay. That's what ZywOo fans used to actually be like. They actually pretended the whole year long. By the way, go watch my video that was about Vitality winning IM Cologne. I go into this. The whole year I've said I don't want this Vitality lineup to change. I think it's one of the best rosters in the world. Any other IGL would love this roster. Any other coach would love this roster. You've got ZywOo, potentially the best player in the world. You've got Spinks, one of the best, used to be passive, a little bit more lurky aggressive now riflers. And you got one of the super entry aggressive riflers, Flames. And then you've got Mezzy as like a good clutch support player. And then Apex is like a good IGL who calls a good aggressive T-side. You're going, it's just 1v9 every game. Every game. I mean, the stats earlier on that other thread a few weeks before already showed that's not the case, by the way. Already showed that is literally not the case. And people like Spinks are actually going to be top 10 players, probably Flames as well this year on HLTV. But no, to a ZywOo fan, he doesn't get any help. Same like 5 years ago. But Simpla's electronic and flamey. Are we pretending Flamey's better than Flames and Spinks? These guys are bombs. They don't know CS. They're the Messi fans who don't understand how good Iniesta and Xavi were. They think it was just Messi. They think when he had Neymar and Suarez, it was just Messi. But magically, when Di Maria scores and Messi doesn't, that's still Messi winning. Fucking ZywOo fans, innit? That's why I've always thought the best analogy is ZywOo for Messi, Ronaldo for Simple. If you know, you know. By the way, I'm a ZywOo fan. I think he's one of the best players ever. I just want him to actually embrace his destiny and become the best player ever. But he won't do it. This is a CS2 one. How good of a rifler was Simple? Here we go. The classic moron comment. So we're going to look at it. Maniac himself's made these points before. So someone goes, rifling Simple was by far the best in the world. I remember back then there were discussions on forums for Flamey to take the Hero AK in 4 spy rounds because AK Flamey and Deagle Simple would have more firepower. Just give Simple the AK and he will win you the round. This guy gives my opinion. Mega upvoted, good. Because basically, if you don't know, Device, Simple, and technically ZywOo, which was not when he was at tier 1, were actually riflers first, and then they took the AWP because they were just the best with it. So Simple, if you go back to 2016, 2017, is actually a rifler. It's just that sometimes he picks up the AWP and does the AWP round, but actually he was beating people like Na'Vi and Fnatic with rifles too. He was a mega AK player, he's just super talented. Obviously played with the Krieg and had the same numbers at the end of the year as ZywOo after he played half a year with the Krieg and ZywOo AWP'd. That's how sick Simple is. This guy says that, and then the guy goes, it's because Simple will always get a kill with the Deagle, right? Think it through. Think it through a second. Simple doesn't always get a kill with a Deagle. He's definitely not 1 kill per round with a Deagle, because that would be beyond the greatest player to ever play. That would be like, he'd be so insane, no one would even be close to second. So obviously that's an exaggeration. So if you give Simple the Deagle and Flame of the AK, actually Simple won't get a kill most rounds, because that's just mathematically how it works. But if you give Simple an AK, could he get a kill most rounds? He would get a kill more rounds. Now, here's why it makes no sense to give Flamey the Deagle. Because if Simple gets the kill, which is more likely for Simple with the AK than Flamey with the AK, then there's a gun on the floor that Flamey can pick up. But if Flamey has the AK and doesn't get the kill, and Simple doesn't get the kill, then there's no more AKs and 2 people are dead. So it will never make sense to give Simple the Deagle and Flamey the AK. Maybe the only player in history it maybe could have made sense to is Nico, if someone else goes first with the rifle to create space and then he Deagles. And even then, I'd still rather he had the AK. It'll never make sense. Remember when the economy on CT was super fucked? If you won the pistol, but the T's planted, they could actually do a Hero AK second round despite having not one pistol. And when they would just give that Hero AK to Simple on Na'Vi and ZywOo on Vitality, and on maps like Inferno T-side, they would win you the round, something absurd like 40% of the time. Because that's what a Hero AK and the best player in the world can do. So absolute bollocks as usual. I mean, this guy tries to make the point here that obviously he's going to be better, isn't he? And then this guy going, bro, analysts were losing it when Zeus would take the Hero AK over Simple. That's because he was literally losing tournaments because of that. I will go and show you. Watch this match here. It's going to blow your fucking mind. Because I'm going to show you games in which that is what would happen. They'd give Simple the Deagle and people like Flamey and Zeus would have an AK. Because Zeus was too big-headed not to do it. Why do you think I flamed him for being a bot at the tournament he won at ESL 1 Cologne and said he was a great leader, but he was a bot as an individual player? Because he was wasting everyone's fucking time with ego taking the rifle. So we'll just show you a couple of events here. So the event I always say I think is the best performance ever is this one here. 1.32 rating, 22 maps, 141 plus, 0.6 deaths playing mega aggro, 0.85 kills. By the way, look at the stats on the next event, by the way. They came second there and Astralis won that. I'll show you a stat on there in a minute just to show you how insane Simple is, just for funsies. But look at this whole year. This is fucking unbelievable shit. In the final against Mouse Sports, look at Simple's stat line. He lost this game, by the way. Won the first map, lost in overtime. I'll show you how many kills he got on Mirage. Then lost on train 16-9. So it looks like it wasn't even that close. Except you could have won 2-0. Look at the stat line, boys. This is a final. But remember, surprise, good players play worse against better players. Mouse was literally, after this tournament, I think the number 2 ranked team in the world. Or maybe even number 1. Look how he does against these better players. Plus 37, almost 100 ADR a round, which would be a kill a round, a 1.56 rating, 90 kills over 3 maps, and only 53 deaths. Zeus, minus 24. This is the map that cost them. Sorry, Simple, you have to carry harder, bro. You're only 43 kills, plus 18, 94 ADR, but Zeus has 8 kills in a fucking overtime game. Minus 24 in one game with 35 ADR. Heh. Analysts were losing their mind when Zeus had the AK and Simple had a deagle. Yeah, I wonder why. And then I'll just show you, just so that you can see why nobody is like Simple. Because you know what? When ZywOo's team does badly and he can't hard carry in the finals, I go, you know what? Well, he isn't Simple, is he? So fair enough. He's just maybe the second or third best player of all time. I'll show you what Simple could do in grand finals, and it's fucking insane. Get ready for this. This is the first event where Astralis exerted themselves and showed they were the best in the world. And the only team to take one map of them was like Liquid, who won like 16-14 in the group stage. They 2-0'd everyone else in the tournament. Watch this stat line. You lost 2-0, and look at the maps. Just look at the maps first. 16-4 on Nuke, 16-11 on Inferno, right? If you get 15 rounds total in 2 maps, surely all the frags can't be good. And on Nuke, you got 16-4, so you definitely got shit. How can you win 4 rounds? How are you going to frag out? Guys, this team is so hard. By the way, he's playing the best players, isn't he? Over the series, Simple was plus 8, with more kills than anyone on Astralis. And 92 ADR. His team got banged. Get ready for the first map. On Nuke, 16-4, destroyed from CT side by Astralis. You go on T-side Nuke, back on the CS2 one. You know how hard that was? Watch this stat line and then shut the fuck up and bow down. This is a land final on stage in Marseille. Right, he lost this map 16-4, guys. 22-16, plus 6, 102 ADR, 1.48 rating. Zeus, minus 12. 22 kills. The most on Astralis is 19. Dupree has 13. Device has 17. He has more ADR than them. He's losing every fucking round. Some of you need to actually educate yourself about who the fuck Simple is. And by the way, here's the real tab if you want to make everyone shut the fuck up who's a ZywOo fan. Just to put this tab here, boys, and compare it for me. Sit the fuck down. Nobody can ever fuck with this page. No player in the history of Counter-Strike can fuck with this page. And it's a 9-year span. I'm not even a stats guy, but mathematically, no one can fuck with this guy. Oh, and I'll just quickly show you one more thing. Remember how 2 things they say. Well, 1, if you play better players and you play in the final, you're going to perform worse. And 2, even my boy Maniac says this. There's only so many frags in a server. So if you have other star players in a really high-skilled team, there aren't enough frags for you to go around. Then how do you explain this? Everyone remembers Na'Vi smurfed at this tournament, don't they? And in the final, it was amazing against G2. Let's look. And what you see is, there's some really good players. 3 Na'Vi players are positive. Look, 1.21 rating for Electronic, plus 8. Bit, plus 7, 42 kills over 2 maps, 1.07 rating. How does Simple, playing with all these good players, have a 1.51 rating, 95 ADR, plus 31, 72 kills over 2 maps and 41 deaths? But there's not enough kills to go around. Figure out the maths. 5 kills a round. Let's say you're playing an average game, I don't know, sit on the old MR15. Let's say it's a 16-8 in most games. 24 rounds, 24 times 5. You can do the maths. You're 120-something. Bro, there's loads of fucking kills to go around. It's actually a really stupid argument. They haven't thought it through. It just sounds like sophistry. It sounds like it makes sense. It sounds like it makes sense. Back to the Reddit anyway. Would device fall under that category? Dominant in both AWP, he means both AWP and rifle. Device is a good rifler, but not among the great ones. You can just look this up yourself. Let's look at device when he used to rifle, shall we? Because he wasn't a primary AWPer until 2016. Before that, he was a hybrid and only AWPed on certain maps. I'll show you. We'll go to 2015, the year I think by the autumn he'd overtaken Olofmeister. 2015, there's obviously some of this rating 1.0. Nice rating. By the way, back then, only people like Cold Zero could have like the 1.26 rating or the prime Olofmeister results. This was very good. There was no, like Simple wasn't even around in 2015. He was often fucking flip side. Deaths is not bad. This is a rifle, remember. Very good for a rifle. 0.78 KPR. It's fucking sick. Now let's look what weapons he used. What? More AK kills than AWP kills. But you AWP on CT side, bruh. M4A1, M4A1S. He's an AK player. Now let's go look how he's doing in tournaments. Fabulous. Look at these fucking ratings. He's winning this tournament. Those are simple numbers, but on a rifle. Second place. Those are mega numbers. This is a major. Oh, he chokes at majors. Yeah, in the final, like ZywOo did sometimes. It's still mega. That's the semi-finals. And this is the one, little story, where Device told me ESL, because of cheating, took all the mice in a box. And when they handed him his back, they just like broken the left click or something. He had to like change mouse or something mental or use a broken mouse. Wins this tournament, insane numbers. This is all rifle. Wins this tournament, insane numbers. Against Fnatic, by the way. Wins this tournament, insane. He's doing this against Fnatic, by the way. You only had a 1.31 rating against Fnatic and 1.2 in KD against Prime era Fnatic over 30 maps with a rifle. And he always owned Team Liquid, but that was only one map. Was Device any good? Nah, not great. He was the best player in the world or second best. He was fucking unbelievably good. It really depends on when we're talking about here, 28 points. Even Fallen was lauded as a very good rifler. He wasn't. He wasn't a very good rifler. He wasn't even actually the best AWPer. I actually did do that tweet in 2016, but when I went back, I actually looked and I went, I was kind of just riding the highs of the big games because he had a lot of impact rifling. The way he would play aggressively on CT to gather information, and then he would have sick players behind him who were clutch players, it actually meant that he wasn't some like sick AWPer. He couldn't have just head-to-head beaten the Kenny S's of the world. In time, he was the best AWPer in the world, and he was always just okay with the rifle. Always. This is from 24 days ago. And Fallen was always still doesn't make Device one of the great riflers. Like Simp. Oh, they probably even mean AWPer now, these idiots. Right, so Monacy's already one of the greatest riflers ever, but Device wasn't. You know why? Because that was 2015, it's 2024. You weren't around 9 years ago, I'm just going to say it. You're just pretending to know about it. It's like Messi fans talking about shit from the 2000s. You weren't fucking watching. You wouldn't have been like 8 years old. Shut the fuck up. This guy nailed it. They weren't very good riflers. By the way, that's why he has 1 point. They downvote shits like that. What happened was, this guy goes, if you've ever followed Richard's stream, a deeply unwell individual. Look how much post and comment karma this guy's got. I think people are being too harsh on Nexa. How'd that work out, by the way? Anyone miss Nexa? Thought not. He IGL'd a worse G2. Yeah, it was actually a worse G2. It had Amanek as the AWPer, for fuck's sake. Jax was on that team. Hunter was the second best player. There was no Monacy. He IGL'd a worse G2 to a major final against much harder opposition. That's an insane thing to say. I'll just quickly show you why, because I'm the esports historian. Anyway, back to this. I'll show you that Nexa absolutely did not. I'll edit all this to a later. Nexa absolutely did not go against harder opposition, even though he did have a worse G2. So we'll go to results. We'll go right back to 2021. PGL Stockholm, if you remember, by the way, G2 actually low-key was like the third best team most of the year. And then when they went to LAN, they got second, and then they became the second best team, sort of. So you go to PGL Stockholm, This was the lineup, remember? Now, we're going to look at the lineups of the teams they beat to see if he IGL'd them to the final against worse opposition. By the way, no one ever said it was his IGL that got them there. So we'll go down to here. In the opening round, they got NIP, technically number 2 team in the world. Ultimate Paper Tiger, by the way. Remember this lineup? LNZ from Young Ninjas. Device, who was about like a month from leaving the game with issues, like anxiety issues and stuff. A bunch of players that are just like, some of them never were. One's all right. Hampus was pretty good. They mainly just won CT halves and didn't have a great T half. You play them in the playoffs, in their home stadium, and you just beat them. Let's see how you beat them, though. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Not really Nexa's IGLing, is it? It's sort of more Nico getting 51 kills over 2 maps and Hunter even getting plus 12. I think that'd probably be why you beat them. Because when I look over here, LNZ's minus 17. He has 18 kills over 2 maps. Nico has 51. Can you see what the mismatch would be? It wouldn't really be IGLing, would it? Let's keep going, though. Then in the semis, you played Heroic. Now, Heroic, on LAN, was the second best team at one point in time. Not by the time the end of the year had come about. And on LAN, they never really were a team generally in finals, right? You won, and let's look at this. They won on Nuke. You won on Mirage. On Inferno, it was an overtime game. And get ready for the reason why G2 won. And by the way, let's go look at Heroic's lineup. This isn't even as good as the Heroic lineup that was winning in 2023 because it had Refresh, whereas they had Yappy. Remember? So actually, you could say this was a worse version of Heroic. And this tournament even made people say they were land chokers. Let's go watch the match and see again what could be the reason. What was it Nexa's IGLing? Was he a better IGL than fucking Kyojin? What's that? Kyojin was minus 18 and he's the fucking AWPer. And on 3 maps he got 37 kills. I wonder what Nico did, because it was definitely all about Nexa. By the way, Nexa fragged. Nico did a 1.48 rating in the major semi-finals, averaged 101 per round, plus 28, and got 81 kills over 3 maps. Let's look at the decider. Just a little 30 bomb, plus 12, 93 ADR, 1.35 rating, KD minus 12, 0.61, their IGL and AWPer. But it was Nexa, though. It was his IGLing that got them to that final. He clearly brings more than stats. I agree with that. That said, he still needs to find a better fit within the team. There was no better fit to be found. There's no other role it would even have made sense to give him, and he wasn't appropriate for that role. The irony is, the only role he probably should have done was IGL, or they should have kicked Hunter and got a much better, like a Malbs player then, and then had Nexa as the supportive element. And I'm not going to act like Huxley is not also suspect in that regard. That's weird, because Huxley was going against like some monster teams. Because remember, he IGL'd them to the final against Na'Vi, a godlike team, but then they lost to Na'Vi in that major. So bizarrely, Huxley can win at this point in time. I assume this is 2 months ago, so he'd already won 3 tournaments. He'd won 2 prestige events, Katowice and Cologne, and he'd won Blast World Finals in 2022. But Huxley, maybe he doesn't fit. But I tell you what, next to the time he almost won a tournament, he's fucking sick. Then this guy says the obvious thing. Stockholm was Nico 1v9. Pure will. Nexa did Jack. Actually, Nexa did frag and he did win some clutches. Then this guy goes absolutely wild that people come in with Nexa IGL'd them to the final take. Rewriting history just to sound like they have a case. Oh, in that case, I agree with this guy. Okay, fair play. When BOROS, Falcons have to pay Boris' salary after his departure. Yeah, because no one wants to buy this fucker and they had a big deal with him. 94 points. He did little to nothing wrong. That's absolutely not the case. I know what he did. He did really egregious out of the game stuff that would be the ultimate grounds for immediate dismissal. I wouldn't even have let him play the RMR, but I guess you'd fuck your RMR at that point in time. I think what he did was instant grounds for dismissal. If I told you, you would never let him hear the end of it, and you would hound him to the ends of his days, and you would say he's unprofessional, should never be on a team ever again. It was that egregious. But he did little to nothing wrong because you saw a clip from a fucking documentary that Zonic did not approve. The other players and people on Falcons just looked for someone to blame. Lie. They did the opposite. They didn't say publicly what he did because it's so crazy. They thought, well, we're kicking him anyway and it's going to get out behind the scenes. So let's not say it publicly and ruin the guy's life. just look for someone to blame as it was a massive failure. They didn't qualify for the major. Now, as this guy says, he already had a history of unprofessionalism in Monty. And do you know what's funny? Since this comment, he got kicked out of Into the Breach, and even Smooya thought he was unprofessional because apparently he couldn't even get out of bed. These people are mental. That's also, by the way, I agree with this guy about the recency bias. The reason it's so disgraceful is because it's just every little fucking ZywOo fan who's doing this. Like, the same people who go, ZywOo's teammates didn't play awesome in every game, kick them all. Then ZywOo, like, doesn't do well in, like, a semi or a final. And they go, this isn't fair. And, like, somehow he's allowed to just not do that well. So, because Donk was the shit the first part of the year, and ZywOo had some sus-ass fucking moments, including the big prestige events, they now want to be like, that means only ZywOo gets to stay. ZywOo's never allowed to not be in the conversation because he's ZywOo and my favourite player. But Donk, unless he is winning everything and smurfing, in fact, I won't even look at his stats to even see if he is smurfing. What is that? He had 2 bad lands, then he is disqualified for the rest of the year. Like, these are just children, mate, and you're giving them fucking points. You're clicking updoot on that. Fucking hell. What a waste of time. To be honest, Spirit sit out of too many tournaments. I think they've sit out of like 2. Wasn't it 2? And that drops his sample size, not even vaguely to the point you're thinking about. And you're ignoring that they don't play the same role. They don't play the same role, bro. Like, do you want to know why Olaf Meister probably was the best player of the 2015? Because he used to also be like, it's not really entry. So, I mean, he would entry on like train and cobble first. But on other maps, he was what you call the playmaker. It's in like the forest position. You go behind the primary entry and you just clean up and trade everyone. Like, that was an aggressive role. So that was more impressive than what like Kenny S was doing or Guardian was doing or the other great AWP players or people who play in the clutch scenarios, etc. Actually, it was more impressive because this guy was playing a role where in theory it's harder to get those big numbers. But notice how, not a single, like, look how many posts, no one's ever mentioning their role. No one's ever mentioning what they do in the game, what weapon they even use, except the guy going, give one the rifle and then one, give him the rookie. And he's the only one who's even mentioned anything approaching roles yet. We're having a discussion about football players. And you're just, without saying you only value goals, you're like, oh, well, obviously, you could never have, like, Jude Bellingham in this list. And it's like, but you haven't explained that you value goals. Well, then what about if I then go, well, Cole Palmer isn't even in a fucking forward and he scores like a forward, scores 20 goals. So logically on the Lampard concept, he'd be the best player of the year. No, but then what about this guy? So you haven't determined it at all. That's why this is a waste of time. All this is this. It's everyone post who their favourite player is. Not the best player of the year, their favourite player is. And then let's pretend that we're not just posting who our favourite player is and hating on the ones we don't like. Let's pretend we're actually doing analysis and providing some sort of like a discussion where we contrast these players and determine who the best one is. How could you, riddle me this, guys, how could you talk about who the player of the year is without discussing, are you ready, how they play, what they do as players, who they are as players, who they play for, and what they do for those teams? It's almost like you're idiots. And these are all just upvoted comments too, which is fucking bollocks, mate. Just all absolute bollocks. Anyway, here's a good one. If you didn't see, there was this hilarious interview that X-Stars did. Now I see why he doesn't do interviews, by the way. I mean, I believe this was like a Vakam one or something, and then it was just translated, I'm going to guess. Is that the situation? Fucking hell. It's my nose just going to be bleeding the whole fucking time or something. Brilliant. No, it seems to have stopped. Yep, 1PV. So not Vakam this time. It's 1PV. It's the Nell website, if you don't know. And what happened was X-Stars did an interview, presumably in French, and then he explained some of these things. Like, we're not going to make any changes because obviously the rumour from KRL was like Spinks was going to leave or they had issues because he didn't want to play with Messi and then they were going to trade and maybe we were going to get Hunter, even though now it's claimed that Hunter was never available, whatever, by Vitality and they were never trying to get him. But who knows and all that shit. So, let's see. Yeah, in fact, it's here. So we'll just go here through this quickly. So first of all, they say they won't make any changes through to Shanghai. So that means basically till the end of this season, they're going to keep the same lineup. So they're not making changes. That's the key thing to understand here. Then when you go down, it says, like, essentially, I'll tell you how to read this. He goes, we speak to organisations and agents to learn about players' situations. Why do we do this? In case we ever need to make a change if things aren't working anymore. To know that we can make a change because we have the opportunity, we have the money, we think it's the right change, and it's the right time. Now, what he's setting up there is the notion that in some context, they actually had either reached out to ask G2, like, by the way, would you sell Hunter? What would his buyout be? You know, how much longer on his contract? Or that someone, maybe not Extaz or someone officially within Vitality, but maybe someone within Vitality had also reached out just to inquire behind the scenes, like, would you even be up for joining? Would you be able to do these roles if you did? He set that up as a disclaimer to basically, if you read between the lines, someone probably did talk to Hunter. It's just that there was never like a contract, never terms being agreed. It was never about to happen, which is maybe what KRL tried to suggest. It almost happened. It's like, almost is doing a lot of heavy lifting there. But then it goes down here. It goes, one of the rumours spreading, obviously what he was trying to address vaguely there, he goes, was about Vitality being in advanced talks with Hunter of G2, but that was quickly shut down. We never spoke to Hunter, Extaz said, be it before, during, or after Cologne. Now, the problem there is I'd have to ask who's we. Does that just mean Vitality? Does that mean him? Did none of the players ever do it? Obviously, players tend to reach out first of all. Then it goes, Extaz did admit that that Spinks had asked to explore his options after the event. So, okay, we don't know if they were going to get Hunter. Let's see. But Spinks apparently maybe wanted to leave after Blast Spring Final. So they still didn't win an event that year. But the matter was settled, was settled in June. So we're at the end of August now, guys. When it was brought to a close by Vitality Chairman Neo. Did that mean I had to start thinking about alternatives? Yes, but it wasn't Hunter, and I won't say who it is. Okay, so he's actually shutting down the rumour entirely. He's basically implying they were looking at other people. It just wasn't Hunter. Anyway, you don't need to read the rest of this. Here's where it goes mental already. So, because he made this statement elsewhere, where's the Mezzy one? Where's the Mezzy one? Because the implication was Spinks didn't want to play with Mezzy. That's what we all tried to say, right? Which Staz obviously he's going to say is not true since he's keeping the lineup. Let's see. It's this Kyojin line everyone wants me to read. So, let's see, where is that? Where's the actual thing that says Kyojin, though? Let's maybe do that. Oh, there, it's already there, right in front of me, right. So he points out, as I pointed out, that all the Vitality fans, including ZywOo fans, wanted fucking Mezzy fired. They all think he's shit. So he goes there, who are tunnel-visioned in their criticism of Mezzy. What I often hear is that Mezzy is shit. That is an insane statement, by the way, if you consider the roles he plays as well. He said, being shit and winning 3 tournaments in 9 months, getting 2 EVPs, that's something. He's right. That is mental. But you're saying this player is shit. On what standard? Like, by the way, what teams are good? Like, before you go, well, what about, like, Mouse? Like, they have 4 good players and a good IG. Yeah, we've never seen them, by the way, win, like, an IM Cologne. When do they win giant tournaments? So, actually, the players you're saying are better than Mezzy. We don't even know if they are. They sometimes fail in the same circumstances. You just let them get away with it. What's great about Mouse is they tend to fail as a team, so they don't tend to carry blame onto one person. His stats in Cologne were okay. They were totally fine for someone who won the tournament. His stats at big events are good. You are right. People talk about him as if he were Kyojin, as if this guy were a huge noob. Right, I agree with all the rest of it. Now, here's what's funny. Everyone's going like, lol, what the hell? He's cooked Kyojin for no reason. Right. Did he actually cook Kyojin for no reason? Isn't he pointing out that literally our team, Vitality, used to have a guy who got scapegoated, but even though he's going to play, he wasn't saying, but who obviously was a noob. Remember, he was a total beginner at pro level CS. They only got him because they wanted a French-speaking team, and he was really bad. Like, he actually had not appalling mechanics, but his decision-making was terrible, his understanding of when to pull back, when to play. He didn't understand the tier 1 meta. He actually was, by the way, if anyone is a noob, they're going to say later, no one's a noob. He is the definition of a noob. Literally a noob, a totally inexperienced player who didn't know what he was doing, had no clue what he was doing. And he was really bad at times in a team where ZywOo was contender for Player of the Year. So that wouldn't be for no reason. That would be the best possible example you could give. He's even someone who'll never be tier 1 again, never be a pro. So it's even safe to say it. And you're even sort of actually giving it up and being legit if you're Xtaz. Because you fucking picked him. You scouted that guy and put him in the team and had him hold fucking ZywOo down. I'm not talking about an African-American hood slang for that. You actually held this guy down like an albatross around his fucking neck. So that's totally legit to say. Look, Azuma's brain can't comprehend even simple logic. I just mentioned him like an idiot noob for no reason. For exactly the context he's talking about. Literally that reason. 778 points. This is the dumbest fucking community imaginable. Just fucking imbeciles. Just monkeys hitting buttons as fucking peanuts come out of a chute indeterminately. Hey, I did that. Guys, the new code is up, left circle. Oh, another peanut. No, now it is don't up, left circle and say, hey, guys, the code is... Oh, shit, another peanut. Now the code is to get flabbergasted and a bit thrown off and just come back. Oh, shit, another peanut. Oh, I fucking love peanuts, me. 778 points, sir, for peanuts. For the peanut code. You've cracked the code. Leonardo da Vinci, the peanut code. Dan Brown couldn't even write shit this bad. And that's if he had a book to copy it off like Holy Blood, Holy Grail. Shout out to the OG. And then these people just make the reasonable points, don't they? This is one of the greatest strays I've ever seen. It's not a stray. It's not a stray. He didn't accidentally mention him and then get him owned. He actually mentioned someone who was almost objectively bad at the game in his team that he chose that would have been an actual viable scapegoat, unlike Messi. The whole premise of this actual fucking... That's exactly the whole reason to say it. And then this person, Kyojin. Let's just repeat every meme we've ever seen on the internet. So now Kyojin is just that meme of 50 Cent. Like, why say fuck me? Because you were terrible at the game and held everyone down. That meme doesn't even work. 50 points and the meme doesn't even work. It doesn't even make sense. Kyojin, like, why would he say fuck me? I was only far and away the worst player ever to be in his teams who actually made the team lose games all the fucking time. Why would he say I'm a noob or not good? I don't know, maybe for the reasons being outlined. Are you even following the conversation right now? Or are you just clicking upvote on any old shit you see, idiot? By the way, no one ever said he was a good player, but fair enough, yes, he was considered to be a talent because he had like good YouTube clips or whatever the fuck. Then Nell comes in and just starts being an actual greaseball as usual, talking out of his arse. He goes, it does sound like a sick burn, but it's not really meant as Kyojin is the noob. Right, so what Xtaz was saying, let's just see how disingenuous Nell is as a person. What Xtaz was saying is, everyone's treating Messi like he's a noob, but he's a better player than Kyojin, who definitely isn't a noob, because I'm saying no player I've ever had would ever be a noob, even though in this context, noob obviously doesn't mean beginner at the total game, like a player in Gold Nova. It obviously means relative to the tier 1 pros, and more importantly, the players on Vitality and how good a team they were and how good those players were. He would be a noob relative to them. So actually, Kyojin would be the ultimate definition of a noob. But no, because I'm Nell and Direct and I want to chum every little arse in the fucking French scene, I'm going to say that he would never say anything negative like anyone ever was a noob. He's just saying Kyojin wasn't a noob and neither is Messi. And he's better than Kyojin, but definitely Kyojin isn't a noob. He's just worse than Messi. And I'm referencing it for some bizarre reason as though he was a player that might have been a viable scapegoat for some blame, but Messi isn't. But again, let me just reiterate, nothing against Kyojin. That's why I'm name checking him. He's definitely not a noob, even though I've implied someone is a noob. And contextually, if anyone could be considered a noob of any teams I've played in, it'd have to be Kyojin. But no, let's just ignore that part. Let's just be utterly disingenuous twats and pretend, by the way, like he said any of that in French. Like, by the way, I did some French in school. Like, the French is so different that was all hidden in there, but we didn't get that when they translated to English. It's nonsense, mate. Basically, he said Kyojin because he was a fail in French fighter. So like a noob then. Sort of like a noob. And it was Xtaz's decision to bring him in. So you could call him a noob then. It's his choice, right? It's his fault, not Kyojin's. And many people, myself, including myself, were vocal about that choice being shit. And it was. Who gives a fuck, mate? I like the way he says that as though like he knew who they should sign for Vitality. So he just used that to compare a bad choice to the Messi pick. But again, Kyojin not a noob. Why would he mention noob then? Saying Messi is far from a bad pick like the Kyojin one. No. He said he is a better player than Kyojin. He's not a noob. By the way, the actual implication there is that Kyojin is a noob. That's actually how that would be interpreted. But I get without the context, it looks rough for Kyojin. No, it looks rough no matter what bullshit context you put on it, mate. you can't just change reality. Here's a mental one. Dickhead French fan, 274 points. This is a real statement. Are you ready? This is mental. Good thing ZywOo got his major before things went to shit. Right, guys, please tell me you understand. He is saying that Vitality has gone to shit. Vitality, that just won IM Cologne, has gone to shit. The second prestige event ZywOo has ever won in his career. He just won it, but his team has gone to shit. And the implication is he is not able to win majors now. That with this team that's gone to shit, ZywOo would be incapable and has no opportunity to win the major, the upcoming Shanghai major. Right now, Vitality would be the number one favourite to win the Shanghai major. We just saw they looked fucking awesome at IM Cologne, and this has 274 points. Get ready for this. Right, this is how fucking stupid this is. You're upvoting people who didn't read the article, and because you're upvoting them, I'm going to infer you didn't read the article. This is just people upvoting things. They see a trigger word, and like Pavlovian, upvote. It doesn't make any sense. Let's go back to what was said here, shall we? And just use, our fucking eyes and read. Catch a bubble, I'm talking. On July 2nd, right, it is now the 29th of August, and they won Cologne, 2 weeks ago. On July 2nd, we decided not to make changes through Shanghai, right? So, literally, that's, by the way, the subheader. The opening fucking sentence of the piece says that they're keeping the same roster through to Shanghai, that they just won Cologne with. Therefore, Spinks isn't leaving, Messi isn't being kicked, and since they just won Cologne, we know there's not a problem. So if you just read the opening sentence, you would never put this tweet. It wouldn't make any sense at all. It would make zero sense. Not only would you never put that response on Reddit, by the way, you'd never upvote it. Hundreds of you. I must upvote it, please. It must go to the top. ZywOo has no teammates, and he will never win a major with this team. What's that? He just won the second prestige event of his whole career. Oh no, this team is too bad. Are you even listening to yourselves? By the way, at that tournament, ZywOo, Spinks, Flames were all fragging out. Apex had a big playoff series at one point in time, and then fucking Messi had just even stats. I think it was plus minus zero for most of the event. It's such a fucking whack narrative. You don't want to know why people hate ZywOo stands. Not ZywOo stands. Because of this. Because of shit like this, where he can have the best roster in the world, a top 3 ranked roster at pretty much all times, it feels like. He can be in potentially every single semi with a real chance to win, and you act like he's actually playing in Titan early 2015 with bomb-ass RPK, inconsistent Apex, Maniac not fragging, an Existence low fragger trying to tactical. You're acting like he's prime Kenny S. It's a fucking disgrace. You actually make me sick. You're fucking pathetic. There's no way he leaves after they just won Cologne at 137 points. It's in the first sentence of the fucking piece that you are linking to here. If you had just opened this and even scrolled one scroll reel, you'd have to read it. You'd have to have read it. But let's all just have a conversation, not about the actual post that we're fucking commenting on. Because you know what Redditors are? They're deranged idiots who are busy working or playing a game. They don't even pay attention. They're the guys who don't even listen to what you're talking about. And it's like you're in a diner having a conversation with your friends like, why did the fucking quarterback do that? Like, they should have called a different thing off second down. And then they just hear quarterback and lean over hey, we should fucking get Dak Prescott in on a contract. Like, oh, yeah, my food shit. Like, how obnoxious would that be? And then you dickheads upvote it. You upvote this shite. You fucking morons. And then these people are going to critique me and my game knowledge and what I know behind the scenes and what I think of my play. I know how to fucking read. I know how to read. You don't. Fucking mental. Who would ever want to leave ZywOo? What? By the way, that alone is why we hate ZywOo stands. Because what we're actually acting like for real is ZywOo is God himself. Nobody would ever leave a team ZywOo was in because he's God. How could you ever leave God? Oh, that's right. You couldn't ever want to go to, I don't know, G2. Just have an awesome time there. You couldn't know that shit heels at KRL want you out because of your nationality, I would allege. You can't, no, there's no reasons like that. By the way, maybe he even have disputes within the team. Maybe he doesn't like the way that Xtaz coaches. Maybe he doesn't like Apex's calling. Maybe he doesn't like Messi. Maybe they don't get a lot. Who the fuck knows? There could never be a reason though, because ZywOo's God. ZywOo's God. The same people, by the way, where Simple's never allowed to play again because he had one bad online series and he's toxic, so how do you ever want to play with him? By the way, Simple's better than fucking ZywOo, you cretin. But by your logic, people could want to not play with Simple, but they could never not want to play with ZywOo. Oh, fuck, it's just boring. 71 points. By the way, this is a pretty good point. I would guess that Spinks would be the one played well, but I would guess actually Flames was pretty cheap, if I had to guess. Because actually Vitality isn't a team that just breaks the bank constantly, by the way. I mean, this is actually a good point. If you did do a swap, you'd have a pretty decent core to still play with if you were the guys from G2, right? The swap could actually work for you. I personally don't think it would be a very good swap for Vitality, by the way. I don't know why they'd be swapping for Hunter. But being as you're going to lose Nico next year for your G2, in a world where Monacy stays, you'd actually rather put Malbs in a sort of Nico's roles, put Spinks as like the lurker, sort of a bit like what Hunter does, and then just let him heavy lurk, and then have Monacy just doing what he does. That actually would be a pretty decent core for team. Yeah, I think that's actually a pretty good one. And then look, all the way down with only 20 points. The guy just goes, did anyone actually read the article? How are you all talking about Spinks leaving when it says in the damn paper that the situation was resolved in June and that Spinks looking for options was nothing out of the ordinary? You guys are also noobs. You don't know how often players look. But it's, I'll tell you right now, people like Elise not only could have been in squads like Team Liquid, they've also potentially put their ear to the ground out there and asked about other teams. So there's people in teams like Team Liquid or FaZe or Vitality. There's a whole bunch of teams where people are asking, talking, thinking, is there a way? Because you don't know yet what's going to happen in the next 2 months of tournament. So you plan ahead. You think, what might happen if things go up or down? Then you win a tournament. Okay, maybe I'm staying put, lads. Or you lose. Oh, I really want to join now. Yeah, but sorry, we did better at that last tournament, so we can't bring you in at this point in time. So that's just how it goes. That's just how it goes. There we go. This guy goes, man, did Vitality struggle replacing RPK? Right. Here's the problem with that. Not really. Right, so if you remember, he left in early 2021, which was the odd line era. So I can't do LAN, I'm going to have to do all matches. So what we'll do is just go 2021. He played 36 maps, terribly against everyone. His firepower was 19. He's dying loads. He's barely killing anyone. You could argue, this is what I've heard, like he didn't like the setup of the team and some people were pissing him off, and he's really old at this point in time anyway. Let's see how old he is now. 35 now, and this would be 2021, so take 3 off that. So he'd have been 31 years old, but his game had already dropped off a cliff. This is what happened to his game. It had already dropped off a cliff. Now look, the reason I know it dropped off a cliff is because look how good he was at the end of the year before. Look at the fragging, the kills per round. This is one of the reasons why they could actually still win tournaments. Because actually these stats for his roles are totally fine, especially over these many maps. It's totally fine. And then you have odd ones like this where you go and fucking ham. And unsurprisingly, you win those tournaments. Like, this is pretty good. The problem is, this has already fallen off a cliff. So at this point, we have to replace him anyway. Yeah, he has, like, smarts and all that. The problem is, in that lineup, you were lacking firepower, weren't you? Like, if we just go and look at a tournament, we'll go to Blast Showdown, shall we? Let's go and look at a match. This is them against 9Z when they lost infamously to 9Z. The problem you had in this team was Shocks was all right. Actually, ZywOo was shit, but it's an online game. Who gives a fuck about this? The problem you had was you had ZywOo as your main firepower. Shocks wins some clutches and frags all right. Apex is whatever. Masuta wasn't particularly good, and RPK was fall off a cliff, and you had to replace him with Kyojin eventually because you had to gamble on firepower. I don't even actually blame necessarily the particular pickup from Xstars. Maybe he thought he could craft Kyojin into like an aggressive rifler that got good amount of kills. That could at least have worked again. But yeah, I thought I'd just show you. Actually, fair play to this, that you can actually now see all the rankings. That's actually pretty legit. Wasn't even aware that was a feature. Okay, cool. Everyone needs a support network, and mine is, of course, my Patreon community, the Scrominati, who, in many ways, they're the Sonny to my Cher, saying, I got you, babe. So this video and all the others on my channel were kindly supported by the following names: Ahmed Hadjou, Mac Pugnatio Rajcula, Adam Tomlin, Animosity, Jensen Goh, Tosh, Toucan, And you know it. Jerky's Minion, my main man, always going to be referenced, one of the best patrons of all time. Would you like to ask a question in my AMA? Maybe you want to suggest a topic or a guest to say on my channel. Do you want teasers? Find out who the upcoming Reflections and Talk to Thorin interviews are. Maybe you want to do one of those long discussions where you get to set the topics we talk about. Well, if any of these or others appeal to you, put your money where your mouth is. Join the Skull Illuminati today via the Patreon link in the description box below.